Good people, welcome to yet another episode of the Prodigious Leadership Podcast. It's good to have you on, Doctor. Please introduce yourself and tell our viewers where you're watching from, where you're tuning in from. Sorry.
Hey, everybody. So I am Dr. LaTanya Moore. I am in Dallas, Texas. I am new to Dallas, so this is still new to me. I was about to say Durham, North Carolina, but that is not where I am. You said tell a little bit about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sure. So I am a coach, consultant, speaker. I feel like I do all the things, but I'm really passionate about helping people unlock their next level in any area of their lives. And I love to motivate and inspire people, really to heal, to be free, and also to move into the progression of the calling that God is calling me to. So I do all the things.
I really love that because that was actually going to bring me to my first question that I was going to ask you. And my question is birthed out of an observation I've made for the past few years since I've followed you, is how you're so diligent and dedicated to pouring into people. I mean, you don't just wake up and be a person who's dedicated towards pouring into people. It can get exhausting. You could burn out from it. And oftentimes we don't always get it right in the beginning. I want you to give our viewers a perspective of how you're just that kind of person, your ability to pour into other people and to do it consistently and diligently. And also tell us where you get that from.
That is a great question. So I would say you're so right. You don't just wake up with that ability, but when you know and understand who God has called you to be and what he has called you to do, you understand that there is an assignment attached to what he's called you to do, right? And that assignment is attached to people. And so if you wake up with a yes, then you show up and unlock someone else's yes. And then they can show up and unlock someone else's yes. And so I realized that I had to show up and I had to be consistent and I had to pour, because attached to me, right, are so many other things for other people. And so living in my purpose unlocks other people's purpose. So that's the reason why I have to continue to, get up and be consistent. Do I always feel like it? Baby, no. There are times when I need to be poured into, when I don't have anything to say to you at all because I am depleted. And so in those times, I just chill out. I chill out. I receive from God and I wait until he's telling me, all right, it's time to pour again, right? I wait until I'm filled. Where did I get it from? I would definitely say I got it from my family. So people always talk about generational blessings, generational curses. I am all about some generational assignments because I really feel like things are passed down like through your family, and maybe your dad didn't complete it, or your mom didn't complete it, or maybe even your grandma, right? Your grandparents. And I believe that those things are in you now. And then you have this responsibility to like show up in it, right? But it's up to you to give the yes. So I believe it definitely comes from my family. I have a family full of motivators and encouragers.
I really love that. And I'll tell you why. Because I really agree with the generational assignments one as well. There's just mantles that have been handed over to us, and it may be different for different people in different generations, but it is what it is. So I really allude to that statement, very profoundly stated. And the second thing I want to say is, you said living in your purpose, right? What does purpose mean to you?
Purpose to me is doing what God has called you to do. Oftentimes we think about purpose as some end goal, but purpose is an assignment. Purpose is a journey. And so I believe that God calls us to do something, multiple things, right? And I believe the purpose is the foundation. My purpose, there is no fancy title to it at all. It is to motivate and inspire. That is my purpose. And I've learned that over time, God began to shape that purpose for me to help me understand that I'm to motivate and inspire, but in a way that promotes freedom, in a way that brings about healing, in a way that shifts and moves people, into their next level. And so whatever God has called you to do, and you know that, and you understand that by talking to the man, okay, talking to your father. And when you do that, you begin to understand what he has called you to do. And I know that you love talking about leadership. It's so interesting because being called to leadership means that you have to show up in a way where you're motivating and inspiring. So a lot of leaders have that naturally. You've been called to lead. You've been called to shift mindsets and to shift people. And so that purpose, again, is just what God is calling you to do.
I love that. What God is calling you to do. And so simply put, very, very simply put, and straight to it, right? And I must say that another thing that, like you said now, that I believe leadership is about is discovering your true self. You know, when I look at leadership, I don't look at it as a position. I look at it as a function, but most importantly, I also look at it as purpose discovery. And I love how you said that purpose is just doing what you've been called to do. That is leadership as well. When you discover your true self, what you've been called and created to do, you find your purpose. And in essence, people follow you because you pursue a cause that is greater than yourself. But one thing in which I really admire, particularly an attribute I've observed in you, is how you remain authentically you. I want us to speak about that. Because when you get into leadership, you get exposed to people admiring what you do. You get exposed to resources. You do tend to lose a sense of balance where yourself is concerned. And one thing that I've admired and observed where you're concerned is just how you're authentically you and consistently. Speak to somebody who's struggling. No, for real. Like, that's facts. I'm sure people who know you know this. Is how you're just you, you know? And I was even watching the interview you did the other day. You were just you know, and people don't understand that there's power in being you. Please speak to somebody who might be struggling with accepting who they are, especially as they're transitioning into greater heights of their functioning.
Yeah. You know, it's so interesting. And I laugh because being me is a thing that I had to learn to do. I wasn't initially this way. It wasn't until I learned my identity, as you were just touching on, my identity in Christ, and that he can use anything. He can use the fact that I am from the hood, okay? He can use the fact that I went to school for 8 years to get a PhD. He can use the fact that my grandmother lived in the country and had me out there with chickens. Like, he can use the fact that I like to talk in a way that is relatable, right? He uses all of that. And so when I realized that, like, wait a minute, God isn't trying to change who I am in any leadership space. It doesn't matter what they are doing or what he is doing, what she is doing. God isn't trying to change that about me. Those are the things that make me unique. And when we pull upon our authenticity and our uniqueness, we show up as leaders who other people can relate to. There's a certain number of people that are already called to you. And so as you show up, you'll literally become the magnet that they are attracted to. So I would say to anyone who is struggling, who is trying to, be authentic or wants to be authentic, but feel like they can't, maybe because you've been suppressed or because, there are other people who are a different way and you want or desire to be like them. I would say to you to tap into who you are. Tap into who God has called you to be. Why? Because that's where the glory is. That's where the favor is. That's where the fruit is. And I say that because there are atmospheres where we are created to thrive, not just survive. If there was a fish in a tree, he would die. If there was a bird underwater in the sea, he would die, because they're outside of the areas where they were created to thrive. And so when you show up in your authentic self, you create environments where you can thrive.
When you show up as your authentic self, you create environments in which you can thrive. You're about to go on a tour now, and I want us just to get a little bit into the technicalities of that. A tour consists of people being involved. I know you're stressed. A tour consists of people being involved. You need a team. You need advisors, counselors. You need suppliers. There's so much you need. How do you discern whether somebody is right to be on your boat and not? How do you distinguish between the two?
You said the word, discern. You have to discern. Baby, your discernment has to be on 10, okay? One of the things that I began to do is just to think. Before I discern, I just started to think. I said, okay, who is going to help me with this? And God yanked me back really quickly. And he said, do not choose people because you know them. Don't choose people because you know them. And automatically I was just like yanked back from like, you know what I mean? Just me moving. And so I said, okay, God, highlight the people. And what has happened is that people have been highlighted, illuminated. I kid you not, like I could look at someone in a crowd and they are just glowing. And I know that they're supposed to be on my team. You know what's funny is that on yesterday morning, I sent a text out to the people who God had illuminated. And I literally asked them to meet with me in like a matter of hours. And they were all there. One, they understood the assignment. Two, they understood the call on their lives. And three, they understood the call on my life. And what happens is when you discern the people who are supposed to be on your board, on your team, then they understand the call and they show up in who God has called them to be because they know they've already been called. Nervous and all, okay? We all nervous. It's all right. It's part of the process. But yeah, I think that number one, discernment. That's how you choose.
Definitely being nervous is a part of the process. I agree with you. And as you just said that, there's just something in which I'm thinking, because those in which were aligned with what you were trying to do and establish were there. We get that, right? And somebody might be listening and say, oh, that means they're good people. Yeah, they are great people to a certain extent, but they honor you. Right? That's something we've got to lean into that part, because I can be a good person according to whatever standards you measure and lack the honor for you. They honor you as one who carries an assignment, and I honor you as well, just to throw that in there. But they honor you on the basis of the assignment in which you carry. They see what God has placed on the inside of you. So now it's beyond just the Dr. Moore thing. Now it's we honoring this thing that she's got. And I'm sure somebody's listening and saying, wow, she's lucky. I'm sure you have stories, and I want you to lean into them, where people have dishonored, disrespected, disregarded your value, your time, your gifts, your voice. I mean, people look at you now and they see how much people honor you, and they don't realize that behind the scenes, there's a whole number of people who have dishonored you.
Oh, God, yes. Listen, when I tell you that you have to constantly, as a leader, be self-aware, you have to self-reflect, you have to really notice what is happening in you, because sometimes our past things, right, can really get involved in the leadership process, in the bringing together of teams, and in the connection with people. Because I've had people, that I could not trust, who I thought I could, or who have stolen stuff from me, or who like my content material, who have basically not showed up in the way that they were supposed to show up. And so all of that, yes, is dishonor. But at the same time, I realized too that some of it was also my thoughts about people, my thoughts about trust, how I, was able to respond, because I had to think about and self-reflect on all of my own stuff, right? And so not all of those situations did I handle properly. None of it was, hey, I got upset and did all these things. No, absolutely. But what I had to learn over time in my growth process is that when people dishonor you, when people betray you, when they step away, they step outside of the will of God, oftentimes they are under the influence. We know what happens when you're under the influence. Okay. You're intoxicated. You can't think straight. You can't see straight. Most of the time they're under the influence, and it's under the influence of their pride, under the influence of someone else and what they're telling them, under the influence of, something that's other than God. And so we have to give the grace and realize that, all right, God, whatever you want to do with this, because I've had two people betray me like recently. Okay. It was an open wound. Until like last week.
Same here. Can I jump in? Sorry to interrupt you. I really want to jump in. It's so funny how you say that, because before this, I did an interview. I won't say who it was. She said the same thing. My family members are experiencing the same thing. People in my circle are experiencing the same thing. I remember speaking to the Holy Spirit a few weeks ago. I was like, this year, you're really showing out with the associations thing, hey? Because everybody I know is having a revelation, a realization, a light bulb moment about their associations, and major shifts are happening. And I mean, you and I, we're believers, so we know that's a prophetic movement. We know that, I mean, if something's happening across the board this year, it means something's coming. We don't know what it is, but something's coming. And we need to know then who's right, who's not right, who's good, who's not good. But yeah, don't mind me. I just wanted to throw that in there. You can carry on.
No, that's good. And it's so in alignment, because when you think about it, when God even started to give me the words under the influence, I thought, wait a minute. And immediately, of course, I'm thinking about, being under the influence of alcohol, but he really showed me the parallels of how people are under the influence of their pride, or under the influence of, someone else speaking to them. And so I had to realize that I had to give grace. Now, here's the thing, leaders. Here's the thing that I had to step into, because God said that they're coming back. And I thought, wait a minute now.
Oh,
they're coming back. They're coming back. And so God was preparing me not to harden my heart, and not to be in a place where I could not receive them when they come back. Oh, wow. And I kept thinking about the prodigal son. I'm over here crying, like, wait a minute, because, I used to be a really good person to block people, like not physically, but just like out of my life, pew, gone. But now, as God is helping me to understand that some people go through things, they experience things, they're under influence, but they hadn't realized that they've stepped outside of his will. They stepped outside of the assignment, and he's bringing them back, maybe in a different capacity. So I would challenge leaders too to, nope, not everybody will honor you. And it does not mean that, you have to accept everyone. But when God says that they're coming back, or when he says, all right, I don't need you to harden your heart, that means that you have to show and extend grace. Yeah. And know and understand the assignment. And as my mentor would say, and ask God, what spirit is at work here? Go a little deeper into that.
I love it. That's so true. As leaders, we shouldn't harden hearts. We shouldn't. I mean, because and I want us to lean in on that, because I mean, if we do, then who are people going to go to? I really believe leaders should extend second chances more than anything. I mean, in any aspect, we should be, when and this is what I'm trying to achieve with this platform. When people hear about leaders or leadership, people should just think love. People should think honor. People should think esteem, value. People shouldn't see leaders as people that are so out of touch with reality, so out of touch with what they're going through. And that's why I'm more into personal leadership. Organizational leadership is great. Give us a strategy that works in your business that can 10x my revenue. Great. But at the end of the day, if the culture and the environment is anti-people, and it's anti-value, and it's anti-pouring into, then what's the point of what we're trying to do? We reach all these goals and materialistic milestones, but at the end of the day, our souls are not in alignment with where they're meant to be. And that's what we saw in the pandemic. A lot of people were so disconnected from the true heart of leadership, the true heart of servitude. How can we do that as leaders? Please speak to us, advise us. Like, what is it that we can do, measures that we can put in place to ensure that our heart doesn't get hardened? Like, and it's so easy to get hard, for your heart to get hardened. It's so easy to be offended. Trust me. Like, people are, man, you can,
as I say, people be peopling.
People be peopling day and night. You know what I mean? And it's so like, it's like, why? Like, why does it have to be this way? And it's very frustrating. Very frustrating. Yeah, man.
So I would definitely say that one thing I've been learning, and this is, when I say learning, I mean it's ongoing. It is happening right now, because again, this happened to me just a few ago. And one of the things that God has been showing me is the importance of knowing his heart for the people that you will call to serve, and knowing and understanding where he has them, what he's moving. That means you have to be in tune. You have to be in alignment. You have to be in touch. Because if I know that she betrayed me, because really there's some trauma, there's some things that she's done in the past, there's some things that, she's dealing with that have absolutely nothing to do with me. if I know that because I'm in tune with what God is showing me about her, then there's no way I can harden my heart toward that. What I really do is move into a place of coaching, a place of covering. Thank you, Holy Spirit. A place of covering, and then I begin to cover her, right? So her betraying me, her what feels like her offense is really her trauma. Is really, me showing up and her thinking that I'm trying to be motherly, or I'm trying, you know what I mean? It's those things. And so what God is showing me is that I have to be in tune with his heart for the people that I'm called to serve. And even more so, the people who are attached to me and through leadership. I lead a lot of people, yeah, but there are small groups of and pockets of people who know me most, right? And who I lead most. And so when I know that, I don't need to know all of their personal lives, but I do need to know what God is doing through them, what God is doing for them and to them, right? And that is why, I kid you not, I can pull some little sticky notes right here. People who are close to me, my team, I can like pull them all. I can't reach them all, but I keep their names on sticky notes. And the reason why I do that is because I want to be constantly, right, in intercession for them. I want to make sure that their names are at the forefront of my heart. I want to know that when I'm sitting here working, I can look over and know that I'm doing this for Courtney. I'm doing this for Ebony. I am doing this for LaToya. Like I need to know, and I need to keep them at the forefront of my heart. So I would definitely say that, in order not to harden your heart, you need to know the heart of the Father for the people that you're called to serve and the people who are close to you. And it's a process.
Oh, no, definitely, without a doubt. But I just want to grasp that. Having sticky notes of people who work for you and with you because you want your heart posture to always be pure towards what you're doing. Oh, my goodness. Like, just imagine if we had that in government. Like, let's not even go into business, medical, education. Just imagine if we had a heart of leaders who had that sort of disposition in government alone in our countries.
Yeah, keeping the people at the front.
Keeping the people at the front and doing things for the people, for the betterment and advancement of people. And another thing I wanted to say is, somebody might be watching and say, wow, all of that effort just for people. Please don't lead. No, like, you're not ready to be a leader. I think I was having a conversation with my mom a few weeks ago, and we were talking about pastoring. And I was like, if you don't have a heart for people, don't be a pastor. I actually prefer somebody who's able to say, I don't have that kind of heart for people, and don't do it. Because that's a protection, And yeah, man, just the shepherding and the leading, I commend you so much for that. And if the people who work with and for you watch this, I just hope they honor you and appreciate you so much because of the love that you have for them. Last words for our community before we leave.
Okay. Tapping in. It's interesting because God has been talking to me a lot about obedience. And so sometimes as a leader, we can get into a place or space where we feel like we have to follow the norm. We have to follow what we've seen. We have to follow what we quote unquote know to do or know is right. And I want to challenge the leader out there who's been doing things the same way, but feeling the nudge to do something differently. I believe that God is calling leaders into a new realm of obedience, and it defies the odds. It goes against the grain. It follows the word and not the world. And so if you've been feeling a nudge, an unction in your spirit to do something differently in your leadership style, do it. I believe there is reward attached. There is an unlocking for other people attached. There is acceleration attached. And there are people attached to the new way. So it's in your obedience.
Love it. Thank you for joining us. Would really love to have you on again.
I'm here for it.